Hey people, something a bit weird today. I'm going back to distillations, but this time I'm going to try it on something I think everybody has experienced at least once in their life. Something I never hoped I would have to resort to do, but for the sake of content and science, which is most important, then I'm going to do it. So today I'm going to be distilling a Big Mac. A Big Mac from McDonald's. The hamburger, the legend. We're gonna see what it looks like in liquid form, hopefully. I'm assuming most of it's gonna be water, but like my lettuce and milk distillations, there always seems to be some kind of flavor profile that comes along with all the water. And so I'm super excited, more or less, to see what comes out. So follow me, let's do this.
Now, I have to get the Big Mac itself, so I just went to my local McDonald's and, well, simply just bought it.
Thank you for choosing McDonald's. How may I help you?
Hi, can I get a number one meal, please?
All right. For the drink?
Water's fine for the drink.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, can I get like a McFlurry?
I'm sorry, but our ice cream machine is down.
Oh, okay, your ice cream machine's down. Okay, then never mind then.
All right, so just the number one meal with the water?
Yeah.
All right, first one, please.
Thank you. Once again, the ice cream machine is down, of course.
Large water Big Mac with a medium front.
Yep.
Yeah, a medium water and a Big Mac.
Yeah. Water's for me. Oh, thank you. You too.
Here is our bounty of the day. Number one from McDonald's. If we look inside, what I've grabbed is, of course, the meal option with fries. I've had maybe 10 or so. And then also inside will be our Big Mac of the day, star of our show, which looks like this. I have resisted the urge to bite into it, though I haven't had McDonald's in probably 10 years. Now I'll bring out the NutriBullet that I'll be using today to blend everything together. Of course, I need to fit the Big Mac into this container here. A hamburger you have to grab with both hands, right? Yeah, I'll stuff it with both hands. How about that?
And the Big Mac fit surprisingly easily in the NutriBullet container. It was almost the perfect size. So I just screwed the blades back onto the container and I prepared to blend the thing in my NutriBullet. And when I first started doing it, it ended up creating like this powder type thing as the buns started to get shredded. And the farther I went into, this powder kind of turned to a darker brown. And I was surprised that there wasn't as much moisture as there was, since I had expected that maybe the pickles and the ketchup and the mayonnaise would bring more moisture to the system and make it easier for me to blend it. But this was not the case. What I ended up with was a mixture that was very similar to the dough that you use, that you roll out when you're making bread or maybe pizza. It had the same consistency as perhaps Play-Doh or so, and so after a while, I was satisfied with my result. So I took my antique distillation flask that I'm very proud of, and due to the small size, this would make distillation quite easy.
Oh,
yeah. I broke it. So I had to change to my 500 ml flask, unfortunately, which means that I will need to distill through other means. Now it's time to load our goopy hamburger into the round bottom flask, and if you haven't been turned off from McDonald's by now, then I don't know what will. You can imagine this in your stomach after you've chewed it, and this is probably not too far off from what it might look like. As I load it more and more, you'll notice that there's an increased amount of condensation that's forming because the hamburger was a bit warm when I blended it up, and already that water is trying to escape from the flask.
So now we have all the Big Mac loaded in our starting flask, and as we heat this up, then it's going to travel up this Vigro column, hit our thermometer, and this will tell us how hot the gases are coming out. And once these hot gases reach this point, they'll hit our condensing column here, which will be cooled by water from my aquarium tank pump over here. And so when these hot gases hit this cold region, they'll condense it back into liquid, run down, and come down over here where I will collect in a Griffin beaker. And here it goes. The cycle is complete. That's awesome. I love that.
And so once again, I'll be using vegetable oil as my method of heat transfer from the hot plate below to the flask above. Let's turn the stirring up and the heating up as well. Eventually, I turn that heat up all the way to the maximum that my heater can do. And pretty soon, I start to notice some condensation really starting to form on the sides of the flask, and the droplets became bigger and bigger. Eventually, they would also run down and just make larger droplets. And at this point, we have condensation that's actually reached the Vigro column. The flask is looking pretty condensed, and we have quite a bit of water up in the column, and larger droplets are starting to form on those inner spikes that are put there. And to speed things along, I take my propane lighter and I'm going to just heat that column, not only to evaporate the water that's already condensed there, but to also make it too hot for any more water to condense and to encourage the water to go up to my condensation column.
Okay, so this is going okay, but sometimes when I'm in the laboratory, then I find that adding some aluminum foil to the base will help capture some of that heat and transfer it to the glassware, and it just generally speeds things up. So for the sake of time, that is what I will do. Okay, so I'm about 2 hours in, and I can say that this end right now smells exactly like a Big Mac. Now there's no water has come off yet, but I don't know if it's maybe some of the more volatile gases that you would normally smell when you're smelling a Big Mac. These are now, I feel, starting to come out somehow, and that's really weird. It's freaking me out. And as you can see, that aluminum foil has helped quite a bit. Our condensation levels are right around here or so naturally, so we're getting very close to finally getting some stuff to be captured in our cooling column.
Now there's a bunch of water droplets that are stored in the Vigro column, so I'll add some more heat to try and get those to evaporate off. And I probably did this maybe 10 times or so. And at this point, there's quite a bit of droplets that are near the point of condensation, and lo and behold, our first droplet of Big Mac essence of Big Mac. That's crazy, right? That's super awesome. And after a while, I had even more droplets. And this was this was just stunning. This is super cool. I really didn't think I'd get that much water out of this Big Mac, to be honest, especially after I had blended it and it seemed so dry to me. And so to have maybe 10 mils or so of that clear liquid was just super cool. And to be honest, I felt super lucky that it actually had turned out this way. After I had collected about 10 milliliters or so of my hamburger distillate, then I turned off the heat and then I turned off the stirring to the flask. I then grabbed this 20 ml vial so that I could store my distillate for long term, as well as use it to sample from. And my solution was, as we've seen, a clear liquid, which is still super cool to me. The fact that we started from such a brown, gross looking mess and ended up with this. Here is what remains in the flask. You can see there's still some moisture that remains, but we did not collect all of that today. And here's our product. In all the shining glory, I'm super happy with the way this project turned out, and I think it's quite impressive.
Alright, so now I have this Big Mac liquid here, and as I open it, it really smells like a Big Mac. And as per tradition, I think I'll try it. It tastes like pickled water. It's possible that I'm not really sure how volatile acetic acid is, but acetic acid is what's found in vinegar, and vinegar is what's used to make pickles. So I think somehow acetic acid did a good job of making it out. But there's something else there where it kind of tastes like rotten hamburger. I'm not really quite sure how to describe it, but alas, I would not recommend this. I don't think the flavor profile is any good. Please don't do this.
Cleaning out my distillation apparatus is something that I've done quite a bit. And so at this step, I just invert the condensation column to allow all of that water to flow back through the tube there at the bottom and into the water tank. And remember, at this time, this whole bench smelled like rotten Big Mac. And so this was not the most pleasant experience for me. And as looking at this flask, you can imagine why it smelled so bad. After a couple hours, then all of that mush had kind of dried out into this rocky paste. And so since this was a food byproduct, I elected to just simply discard it into the bushes that's nearby my home. And I first had to break it up by not only mechanical force, but also just by shooting water in it to try and dissolve some of the particulates that had made up the original Big Mac. And with some time and effort, I slowly got those pieces out of there and into the grass so that the insects can have a fast food meal. And I was even able to recover my magnetic stir bar, which had had such a difficult time in this experiment.
Thank you for tuning in. We got what we came out to do, and that's what matters most. Even though it tastes terrible, that's not really what this project was about. So if you enjoyed what I did today, like, subscribe, and follow me for more videos just like this in the future. And let me know what I can do. I'm always interested to hear what everyone has to say. So I'll see you next time.